Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Spanner Man again here with another video. Hope you enjoyed the video today. Please subscribe to the channel. Any comments, thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Spanner Man again here with another video. Today I'm just going to talk about this little saw. It's the cheapest saw in the Stihl MS range. It's an MS170, had it for about 12 years, brilliant little saw. This thing's done everything I've ever wanted to do. I'm going to talk today about how I installed one of the Archer Pro Drive rim sprockets on here, and also put a 16-inch bar. This saw comes with a 14-inch bar. This bar's still in good condition, nothing wrong with it, but I had this off an MS180, which was brand new, and I just swapped the bar over because I put a different gauge bar on there, an 050 bar on there, which works faultlessly. Now, I did put a video out there for the MS180C, and I had a bit of feedback, quite a bit, some good, and some other ones where some users were a little bit worried about changing the ratio on the sprocket and the bar could bog down the saw. And yes, that can be quite true for a lot of different timbers out there. So first of all, the region that I live in is Australia, and we have some of the hardest timber in the world. There's some good and bad points about having some of the hardest timber in the world. It's very dense, so it's relatively not too bad to cut, because being very dense, it only gets sawdust and chips. Whereas some other, the softer timber, can build up in here and can even jam your bar up. I've had my bar jam up with wood shavings and chips and sawdust, and I had it happen twice in one day, and I thought, wow, that's never happened ever in 20 years. Wow. What it was, the timber was a little bit too wet. The bark, so you're going through the bark, it's all fibrous, and it just got all caught up. And probably the worst that I've ever used this saw in, but I wanted a small saw, was I had to cut some palm tree. It was a fairly big, large palm, and had to cut all those leaves off. You see it before, the leaves look like a bit of a diamond shape, and you've got to trim them all up, and they look really nice. But what I found out, that when you prune some of them up, especially if they're a little bit wet, that just blocked my saw up. The saw had all these fibres in it everywhere. It jammed up the bar. I had to stop and clean it a couple of times. I thought, wow, wouldn't want to be cutting one of these for a living. So palm trees are really bad because it's like cutting through pulp, and it's not the best stuff to cut. Whereas if you're cutting dry timber, the sawdust or the chips just fall away from the saw. You get a little bit of a build up in here, not much, and you certainly don't get much on the bar. So cutting our Australian timber isn't that bad, and we've got some of the hardest timber in the world. The stuff that I cut's about 15 on the Janka scale. That's called grey box, and we've got iron bark, and that's somewhere around 15 Janka. The hardest wood in the world is a tree we call it bull oak. You can do a YouTube search on that, and it's 16.7 on the Janka scale. So that's bloody hard timber. Now, the difference is that if you're cutting, say, a silver birch or an ash or a pine, and they've got a rating of about 5 on the Janka scale, that's 3 times softer. That's just balsa wood for me. You can cut through that so easily. So it is extremely critical that my saws are razor sharp when I'm cutting hard timber. Otherwise, they just won't work, and you'll bog them down. So anyway, we'll just have a look at the conversion kit. And the conversion kit is from Archer Australia, and it's a Pro Drive rim sprocket, exactly the same one that I put on the MS180. Originally, I started with the MS311. The MS311 doesn't have a float-in sprocket, but it's a 7-tooth sprocket. The MS311 is a 7-tooth sprocket. The MS180C is a 6-tooth sprocket. This MS170 is a 6-tooth sprocket. But this conversion kit, because of the diameter is slightly bigger by about 5 millimeters, it goes to a 7-tooth sprocket. That'll give you a little bit less torque, but it'll give you more chain speed by about 15%. So that's the difference. It's 15% bigger, which means that the chain will run 15% faster, but be careful in certain timbers that may have a tendency to bog down. Honestly, on the MS180 and this MS170, I've had it on for 2 years. I've had no problems whatsoever. But as I said, I am cutting dry timber. I don't know what it's like in wet timber, so I haven't had this in wet timber, and I probably don't intend to. But even a big saw can cause you problems in certain type timbers. So the other thing that I did with this, because of the MS180C, this is a 16-inch bar, and I took that off the MS180 and put it on here because I put an 050 gauge on the MS180, which works perfect. And I thought, if I'm going to put a 16-inch bar on this, the motor's slightly smaller. This is only about 30.1 cc's, and the MS180C is, I think, 31.9 or 31.8 cc's. Only about 2 cc's difference. But it's a different, maybe the carburettor's better. It actually seems to have a lot more power, the MS180C, than this little saw. But nonetheless, nothing wrong with this saw. So if we have a look at the floating rim sprocket, we'll just zoom in there and have a bit of a good look at it. It's the same as the other one. So you've got your 7-tooth floating rim sprocket here. The original one, we'll just get that out. It's 6-tooth. There it is there. It's a 6-tooth one. It's not excessively. You can see where it's sort of bit in there a little bit. To buy one of these is about $75, $80 in Australia. To buy one of these kits is $36. It suits quite a lot of saws out there. So we'll just have a look at that. You can see it. Have a look how many saws, even MS211, MS250, MS210. As you can see, this conversion kit, 64255, Archer Australia. $36, you get 3 parts to it. You get the clutch drum, you get the floating rim sprocket, and you get the needle roller. Needle rollers are about $12 a pop, so it's not bad value for money. And now, all I've got to do is replace this floating sprocket, which is about $8 Australian, which is not a bad price. So, and as I said, I've got a 16-inch bar on it. It never bogs down on me. And as I said, depends on the region that you're in. It may bog down for you. I don't recommend it. I can only recommend it in the I've got eucalypt trees here in Australia, and as I said, they're very hard timber, very dense timber, and I find out I really didn't notice any difference. Obviously, there would have been some difference, but personally, I didn't feel it. Because if the saw started bogging down and not doing its job properly, I would have not brought, I would have only brought the one for the MS180. After I put it on the MS180 and I was really happy with it, and honestly, I didn't feel any difference whatsoever. It felt the same. I couldn't pick it. So straight away when I went to, it's called Jono and Jono, they're in Ballarat, Victoria. You can get them online. They're quite cheap. Chainsaw Spares, I think they're called, as they go by that name, so you could look them up. You can get one sent to you, and as far as I'm concerned, they work faultlessly, and couldn't recommend them highly. So thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up, and bye for now.